I'd just like to begin by acknowledging that I live and work on the lands of the Boon Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, as well as any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander colleagues who are joining us today. And I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where you are all living and working from too. Welcome to our information session. We've had a really terrific response and a lot of interest in the program, which we're thrilled about. And it was really nice to see some familiar faces and faces and names pop up in the registration list. So my name is Charlene Edwards. I'm the Executive Officer of the Melbourne Social Equity Institute. And this program is really dear to my heart. It's something that I developed with a colleague several years ago now, when we were working with community organisations and really impressive people there. And we thought, actually, wouldn't it be better to work with them to build their capacity to undertake the research that they were wanting to do, rather than for the university to do it. And it's great to see the program develop over the years, and this is our fourth round of community fellows, or fourth opportunity to participate in the program. Kathleen, next slide, please. So while Kathleen's just changing slides, I'll tell you a little bit about the Institute. So we were established in 2012, and we are a project of the University of Melbourne. So we were set up to support both interdisciplinary research, so that's research that crosses faculties and disciplines, but also research with communities. And we're part of a portfolio of institutes, together with the Sustainable Society Institute, and I know my colleague Janine is here today, the Energy Institute, the Melbourne Disability Institute, and again we've got a couple of colleagues from there, and the very new Indigenous Knowledges Institute, and Aurora is here as well. So we're very engaged with all of the faculties across the university, there's people from every discipline with an interest in social equity and inequity. And our current research programs, so these do morph and change over the years, where we see there's need, but also capacity within the university to work together on these issues. So our longest standing research program has been around migration and social cohesion. We also have a new program around digital access and equity, mental health and society, and underpinning and cutting across all of that is our commitment to community engaged research. So community engagement within the research that we support and undertake is a key, an integral part of what we do. So next slide, please, Kathleen. So the call for applications for 2020. So we're really excited to be offering at least 10 community fellowships, and we expect they'll commence in early 2021. And as I mentioned, our other institute cousins in the introduction about the institute, we're partnering with them to support fellowships in specific areas. There is also a general pool that the Social Equity Institute is sponsoring, but we'll be supporting 2 fellowships for people who identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, and they also need to come from Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander run organisations working to support social equity for those communities. 1 fellowship for a person with lived experience of disability, 1 fellowship specifically in the area of environmental and social sustainability. Now this is pretty exciting for us because we've not supported a fellowship in this area in the past, and that's working alongside our colleagues at the Melbourne Sustainable Societies Institute. And 2 fellowships for people from African backgrounds. Now the Social Equity Institute has been really involved in trying to establish an African research and engagement initiative in Australia. We've been working closely with African leaders to support that, and this is one of our first endeavours in that area. So the fellowships with the Indigenous Knowledges Institute, the Disability Institute and the Sustainable Society Institute, those fellowships will have the added benefit of working alongside 2 of the research institutes at the university. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Our program, as I said, was piloted in 2016. So this is our fourth call for applications. It is a competitive application process. So as you can see, there are now 43 people on this Zoom call, and we have 10 fellowship 10 fellowship places. So it is a competitive process. And I'll tell you a little bit later about what we're looking for when we're assessing applications. We do provide a small grant of $5,000. This really is designed to support your organisation in releasing you to undertake the project. We know that it doesn't fully backfill someone's post to undertake the work, but we hope that there is some sort of recognition from your organisation that if you're doing this project for the organisation's benefit, that you'll be supported to do so. There's a huge amount of in-kind support that the program provides. We provide research training, and also the academic mentor who you work with on the project provides a lot of in-kind support. So they pretty much volunteer their time to support these projects. The projects need to be for the benefit of your community organisation. We need to see that this is working at quite a strategic level for your organisation, and that it's something that will really help you progress. So it could be, improving services, developing new services. It could be in establishing some sort of new capability that you didn't have previously. So maybe an evaluation capability that will support your ongoing work. So it really needs to, we need to see that it's going to benefit your organisation in some way. So projects are up to 100 hours. Now that sounds like a lot, but when we get applications through, a lot of them don't sound like they're doable in 100 hours because people come with really big ideas because they're trying to address really big problems. But what we're looking for are projects that can be undertaken within 100 hours over a 12-month period. There is regular contact with the academic mentor, and that can be in any form that that is preferable to the fellow and the academic mentor. So that's something for you to decide jointly. And we've had a range of outputs from previous fellowships that have included reports, both internal reports, but also advocacy reports, resources and websites, as well as academic publications as well. Next slide, please, Kathleen. Okay, so we've worked with a range of organisations. We've worked with quite a few schools. So one of our first fellowships was with Carlton Primary School, just up the road from our campus on the Parkville precinct. We've also worked with Carringbush Adult Education and a few others as well. We've worked with community legal centres, so West Justice Community Legal Centre and the Flemington North Melbourne Community Legal Centre. We've worked with peak bodies such as No to Violence, the Men's Behavioural Change organisation, the Victoria Mental Illness Awareness Council, and the Homeless Persons Union in Victoria, as well as service organisations like the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, Bailey House, and a few women's health services as well. We've also worked with arts organisations like Women's Circus and Kids Own Publishing, and the Ilbiji Theatre Company as well. Next slide. So in terms of eligibility, now this is, I guess, what you've all come here to hear about. So please take a look at the information kit, which is on our website, that gives you a lot more detail about eligibility criteria, but here are the key points. So you need to be a staff member of a small to medium-sized community organisation. We don't tend to work with huge NGOs because quite often they have their own internal research and policy departments and teams. But we're really looking to support smaller organisations that quite often don't have access to research expertise. You need to be able to commit the time to work on the project, so between 100 and 200 hours, depending on the project's complexity, and have some demonstrated experience of managing and completing projects successfully. We're not asking for any prior research experience, but we need to just be sure that you've got the capacity to undertake the work. Next slide, please. Oh, one other thing on that is that, you know, we are keen to engage with and support as many community organisations as possible. So this is not an exclusion as such, but if we've previously supported your organisation through any of our previous cohorts, we may not feel that it's appropriate to support your organisation again. But please do speak to me if you've got some questions about that. So in terms of exclusions, the fellowship was not designed for someone with a substantive research position, because that is your day-to-day activity, and or someone with a PhD. So really, this is around capacity building, and we would assume if you've got a PhD already, you already have the capacity to undertake research. As I said before, it's not designed for organisations with in-house research and evaluation capacity already. Next slide, please. So benefits for participants. So this is a lovely quote where the fellow really talked about the thinking space to undertake the work, and that's a lot of the reason why we created this program as well. We could see that organisations, you know, and individuals within organisations really had the capacity to undertake the work. They just needed to carve out some space and time to do that. So part of the in-kind support that we give to community fellows is desk space at the Melbourne Social Equity Institute, although I haven't seen my office since March, and I'm sure most of you haven't either, unless you're delivering frontline services. Or desk space in the office of the academic mentor. So, you know, just being able to step away from your workplace where you know your phone's not ringing and you don't have people coming in to see you. Just being able to have some clear space to think and work and read and do research has been really invaluable to a lot of people. The access to the mentors is the key thing, really. So these mentors are there to guide you and give you some confidence and reassurance that you're going in the right direction. So those relationships can be really, really formative. And I know a lot of our previous fellows and academic mentors are still looking at, are still working together, have published together, and you know, it really is the first step, or it can be the first step to a really productive working relationship with an academic mentor. In terms of other resources, we also provide, as I said, research training, but access to our library facilities as well, which can be really, really important for community organisations who just, you know, you can't afford subscriptions to the latest journals and that type of thing. And I know that that's been really important to a lot of our previous community fellows. And there's also the opportunity for other training. So, for example, we had some community fellows undertake some podcasting training at the university. We've had, you know, there's all sorts of seminars and things that are run at the university. So it's been able to dip into that intellectual space as well, which has been really important. We're pretty flexible in the way that we run programs. We've had to press the pause button on a couple of projects because we've actually had a number of babies born to community fellows in the 4 years that we've been running the program. And people can work at their own pace. So, you know, one of our fellows found that the best way for her to undertake her work was, or to finish the project, was just to basically camp out in our office for about 5 weeks and just do it in a really intensive way. And she, you know, finished it off, got it done in that time frame. Whereas other people like to take their time and maybe just spend half a day a week, you know, reading and thinking and, you know, being able to do it at a different pace, and that's worked well for them as well. All we're really looking for is to support you to achieve an outcome by the end of the time frame. It's an amazing professional development opportunity for people, and we have found for lots of our previous community fellows, it's opened up opportunities for them both within their organisations but also external too as well. And for an organisation, they're gaining some sort of output that can be utilised to improve, you know, the operations or the advocacy or the capability of those organisations. That's really important. I'll just go on to speak about one of our community fellows, Tessa Hens at Bailey House. So she's very recently finished up her fellowship. She is a dance therapist and was really interested in increasing participant voice in assessment methods. So particularly with the advent of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, a lot of that is about a lot of the kind of ideology, I guess, behind that is about increased choice and control for people with disabilities. And so she wanted to develop a way of people with intellectual disabilities to really be able to provide their feedback and assess the dance therapy program that they were undertaking. So she was paired up with an academic mentor. Well, actually, she had known Dr. Kim Dunphy from the Creative Arts Therapy unit in the Faculty of Fine Art and Music already. They had a previous relationship, and they were able together to develop a range of tools to support people with intellectual disability. I think that they found it a really, it was a challenging space to work in, but a really productive space as well. And one of the main outcomes is that it has really influenced their organisational practice. So this is something that we really like to see, that we're not only just supporting the fellow, but the fellow's organisation, and that will filter through the organisation. They've established a working group focused on increasing participant voice across the organisation's services. So again, it's sort of infiltrating down into other parts of the organisation. And they also produced, and I think have had published or are about to have published, a paper in Disability in Society. So that's a huge achievement. And really a way as well, not just to influence the organisation and maybe other organisations working with people with intellectual disability, but also to influence the academy as well, and to really contribute to the knowledge base around how to support people with intellectual disabilities to have increased voice. So the next steps. So when you're submitting your application, here are the things that we're looking for when we're assessing whether a project is one that we should support or not. So really thinking about what the issue is that you're trying to address, and having an idea of how you might go about addressing it, but also that the projects are doable as well. You know, we've had conversations with people that have had projects, and really it's the size of a PhD, which is 3 years full time, and you know, really. So looking at maybe if you've got these big ideas, you know, what's phase one of this big idea? What's something practical and achievable that can happen within that first year that can help set you up for those later phases? The output needs to be something useful for your organisation. We don't require an academic output. Not all of our community fellows are interested in that really more academic side of research. They're interested in the action, you know, in action research and being able to produce something really tangible for their organisations. It's not a requirement, and it won't be seen as being a lesser project. But if there is an academic output, then that's fantastic, and it means that you're that there's something else that has come out of the project that that is worth sharing with more broadly. You don't need to have identified an academic mentor before you when you apply, but you might find it useful to take a look at our Find an Expert website at the university. So it's here on the slide, but I think Claire is going to post it in the chat in a minute. Oh, she's done it now. So have a browse through there and maybe approach some academics who you're interested in working with. They might really help you to crystallize your ideas for the application. But the one thing that you really must have is your organization's support to undertake the work. So it's worth having those conversations now with you know, someone that you report to. Next slide, please, Kathleen. So we're looking for all the right ingredients of a successful project. And I've told you how, you know, in the application process, you could frame your project, but that's only half of it. So, you know, what we also need is to ensure that we can support the project as well. So we might love your idea, but, you know, if it is shortlisted as a project that we want to support, we then will go out and find an academic mentor. And we need to find an academic mentor both with the relevant expertise, but also the availability to support the work as well. And if we can't, then it's not a project that we can support, which is heartbreaking when you know, we can see that there's a real need. But so much of the Community Fellows program has been designed around that academic mentor relationship, and that really is the value that the university can bring through this program. The other thing is, you know, I have read some applications before, and it's like, well, why do you need the university? And I think being really clear about that in your application is important. You know, if it looks like you can do it alone, then there's no need for the program, and there's no need for us to help you with it. And just in terms of the process, the applications are due on Friday, the 23rd of October. And we will shortlist from there the projects that we see as meeting that top criteria, the applicant capability, the organisational need and support, and the demonstrated community need. And then we'll let you know like if you've been shortlisted, but at that point we'll then go out to try and find an academic mentor. So it might not be until the end of the year that you really know whether or not we're able to proceed with the fellowship. The applications are assessed by a variety of people, so people from within the university and attached to the Social Equity Institute, and also we have sort of at least half of our assessment team is made up of people from external organisations, a lot of them through our advisory board who are all external organisations. That's it from me.